Hey guys, how are you doing today? I just realized that I can ask you that, but you can't really respond, although I do see there are a couple of you here, so please feel free to let me know how you're doing. I've had a day. This is the end of the day. It's starting to get dark now, so you know what? I was thinking. I was doing a lot of driving today. I was taking my child to and from daycare, which is pretty far away, and one problem, I guess it's not so much of a problem, but if you create content online or if you write any kind of content like you write books or things like that, you have the ability to spin people's perception of you. So by creating videos or writing blog posts or any type of content like that, I can choose what aspects of myself to express to someone and I can choose which aspects of myself to hide. And this gives a very like slanted view of who I am as a person because I can just say, "Hey guys, here's the good stuff," and just totally ignore all of the bad stuff. Um, so I was thinking about just talking about some of my less good qualities because I don't want to present this side of myself only that I don't know. So the way that I like to put myself forward into the universe onto the internet is things that are true. So there's nothing deceptive. It's just more in one lane. So I'm a pretty upbeat person. I tend to be like very outgoing. I'm extroverted. Yeah, I'm not like I'm about to start talking about my negative qualities, but it's not in a self-deprecating way, or at least I don't feel like it's a negative way. I think that it's important to accept the good and the bad of yourself. And I also want to say that accepting the bad stuff about myself doesn't let me off the hook. It's not a way of saying like, oh, it's hunky dory that I have these bad qualities. I'm not going to do anything about them. I'm just going to, carry on, carry on. But I think self acceptance is a really important thing. And I feel like if I'm afraid to talk about the bad stuff or to, I don't know, like go into some amount of detail on mistakes I've made. Someday I hope to have the kind of bravery it would take to discuss in more specific detail. I have a really strong resistance to talking about like any personal details of my life, and that's something that I'm hoping to overcome. So by talking about my bad qualities, it's a way to segue into those discussions without touching on anything that's too specific. So this is like a courage challenge for me, just dipping my toe in the dark side, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But so let's just get to it. Okay, bad stuff about me. Here we go. Okay, so let's start by I've gotten better, but I'm pretty naive. I have a tendency to trust people way too easily. And this is manifested. I'll have to actually just like sit down and share the story one day, but this is manifested recently in getting scammed and losing a bunch of money because I am so gullible. And that was something that happened at the start of COVID. It was brutal. It was not the best. But I have this tendency to believe the best in people, which is a good quality. That's not the bad part. It crosses over to the bad side when I just am blind to problems or flaws or when someone's trying to pull one over me. Just because I like to see, yeah, I'm not as skeptical as I should be. And I can be taken advantage of because of that. And I have been taken advantage of by people, by circumstances, by scam artists. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I tend to be pretty reckless and impulsive. So I don't make decisions that are always based on like good long term foresight. So it's one thing to have these like glorious plans of, where I'll be and thinking like in the long term. Sometimes in the short term, I only see like, oh well, this is exciting or this is interesting. This is a good way to develop my story. I think there's pros and cons to viewing your life through the lens of story. On the one hand, it could lead to interesting decisions and exciting decisions, which can just allow you to recollect and be like, man, that was a cool thing I did. That was a brave thing I did. That was kind of a stupid thing I did, but it turned out okay. But again, it crosses over into being a bad quality when you make decisions purely for the sake of shaking things up, or just without thinking clearly. So I would say that like the recklessness that I've done, or I've been reckless in the past, I probably will continue to be reckless and impulsive. It's more, it's without thought. It's a it's when I make decisions without considering the repercussions and how they're gonna ripple affect other people. So, yeah, so that's another not so great thing about me. Just because there's there's a part of me that craves excitement and interest, but into another quality that's negative about me that kind of conflicts in a weird way is that I can be pretty anxious. It's very easy for me to get stressed out and worked up. I don't do a very good job of like maintaining an even keel baseline. So anything that's like physically daring or things. So for example, I hate roller coasters and amusement park stuff and those kinds of risks, like the I don't know, just like the kind of like adrenaline rush stuff that people generally find entertaining. Those are risks that I just like get really scared of stuff like that. And I get really scared of even just like simple things. So when I was younger, um, maybe this is something we can talk about more in the future too when we're talking about like the dark side. But like a decade ago, maybe a little bit longer, I had some really pretty serious like anxiety problems where like to the point where I didn't really like want to leave my house for a period of time just because the outer world like and people just like freaked me out. Just there was something about the chaos. I don't know. So on the one hand, I can be too reckless and impulsive, but on the other hand, I can be like way too like I can hold myself back and be fearful of things that I don't need to be fearful of. Like I remember in the car, so I have like a weird driving thing. Like I'm mostly okay now with driving, but if like certain things happen, like it starts raining or there's a little bit of fog or there's a little bit of like snow or things like that, god forbid if there's like anything way worse than that, like blizzard conditions, which is it happens when you live in Saskatchewan. I like that's I'll like start I like freak out, like I cannot keep my cool in those kinds of situations. So definitely have like a tendency to get like overly worked up. And I guess another thing that I'll mention is, again, this is something like it used to be a way bigger problem when I was younger, but emotional control is really challenging for me. Just because I feel like on an emotional level, I have pretty big highs and pretty big lows. Like, so some people I know seem to do a little bit of this, like in their emotional state. It's kind of like little ups and little downs. And I feel like I do more of this, like big ups and big downs. And um, I've kind of accepted that as just a part of my character. The plus side of that is I feel like I have this really rich experience of life where things have a lot of meaning. And uh, I don't know, there's just a sort of like a the colors are brighter when you experience higher highs and lower lows, but at the same time it can mean that it can be really hard for me to maintain like an emotional equilibrium. And when I have these like big crashes and stuff, there's just the tendency to want to like lay in bed all day and not actually do anything productive with my life. I just kind of like withdraw and hide from the world. So yeah, those are the things. Those are the main ones that are coming to the top of my head. I know when I was younger, I used to be super opinionated and like militant and would just like argue with people. I used to be like really argumentative. I'm not quite so intense in that way anymore. I'd like to think so anyway. But like for example, I'm vegan, and no, it's on this side. I'm actually wearing my herbivore hoodie that I got in Portland like many years ago. But I used to be like the kind of person who it's like, oh, you want to talk about veganism? Let's go. I'm gonna like this is like fists out. Let's battle. Just anything, not just with veganism, like politics, stuff like that. I just used to be very combative. Um, and I probably shouldn't say used to because there's probably still a tendency, like overly competitive too. So my cousins like to tell the tale of when we all played Monopoly one day. I would have been, I don't know, like 14. They would have been a little bit younger. And I was losing, and I threw the board. Like I literally just like threw the board across the room, like anger, like just rage. So yeah, so that's a thing that is still a thing, but I'm a little bit older and hopefully a little bit less hardcore. I haven't thrown a board in a long time. I've stormed off in recent past, like within the last few years, but I haven't thrown anything. So Minor miracles, you guys. Small steps, baby steps, improvement. Yeah, so this is, I'm going to wrap this up because it's been about 10 minutes. That's usually where I like to cut it off. Um, so I like to, just to wrap everything up, I like to keep perspective on the good stuff and the bad stuff just because I feel like it keeps me a little bit more, it keeps me from getting like, I don't know, like egotistical, or it keeps me a little bit more humble. Especially if I start to get on other people's cases, or I start to feel like other people are letting me down in some way, or like I wish, like I'm wishing things were better or different or whatever with other people. It really helps me to be like, hey, like check yourself. You are not perfect. You are like a million miles away from perfect. So don't be so harsh on other people. Um, and yeah, it just, I feel like it keeps me a little bit more human. I hope. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow.